Welcome to the Explainer. All right, let's just dive right into it. Today, we're tackling the absolute biggest debate happening in tech right now. It's the conversation dominating offices, development teams, and group chats literally everywhere. We're looking at the ultimate showdown between the top AI models, Claude, ChatGPT, and Gemini. And we are going to look past the hype, breaking down the hard facts, the benchmark data, and how these actually play out in real-world applications. So, which one is actually better? Claude, ChatGPT, or Gemini? Man, if I had a nickel for every time I heard this question. From senior software developers to creative writers to just everyday users trying to get through their inbox faster, it is always the very first thing people ask. And I immediately have to stop them right there, because honestly, it's just the wrong question. It's a completely flawed way to look at artificial intelligence. Instead of hunting for one supreme, undefeated winner, we need a massive paradigm shift. We have to start asking, which tool is best for which specific task? Here is our roadmap for today. 1. Benchmark reality. 2. Who wins at what? 3. Ecosystems and multimodal. 4. Decision framework. And 5. The single model trap. Okay, part 1, benchmark reality. When we look at software engineering, the data paints a crystal clear picture. On the SWE-bench test, which is a massive benchmark for real-world coding, Claude hits an incredible 82.1%. It absolutely leaves Gemini's 63.8% and GPT-4's 54.6% in the dust. Seriously, for maintaining consistency across a bunch of different files, debugging or analyzing security vulnerabilities, the data shows Claude is basically in a league of its own. But hold on, the numbers swing wildly in a totally different direction here. Check out this number, 2 million. Gemini claims total dominance when it comes to context window, hitting a massive 2 million token limit. To put that into perspective, Claude Enterprise sits at 500,000 and OpenAI at 128,000. That means Gemini can ingest and process an impossibly large set of documents all at exactly the same time, completely dwarfing the competition in sheer raw capacity. But here's the reality check we all need to remember. Sure, hitting 84% on a complex reasoning test is super fascinating, but synthetic tests do not perfectly map to everyday work. Having the absolute highest score on a spec sheet doesn't automatically mean that model is the best fit for your actual daily workflow. Which brings us to part 2. Who actually wins at what task? Here is your definitive summary matrix. Structurally, we can map Claude directly to writing and code. ChatGPT operates best as your daily assistant and handles deep research beautifully. And Gemini, it completely dominates real-time search and workspace integrations. Let's break these down a bit. Let's look at Claude's superpowers. If you were drafting a highly nuanced blog post, Claude is unparalleled. It actually captures your specific authorial voice when you give it examples, and it maintains incredible consistency over really long formats without sounding robotic. And for coding, ask it to build a complex game like Tetris or Pac-Man from scratch with minimal errors, and Claude just delivers. It navigates large code bases to debug like you've got a senior developer looking right over your shoulder. Now, the crucial takeaway here is that research isn't just one monolithic thing. It heavily fractures based on what you actually need. You're going to want ChatGPT's deep research for comprehensive web scraping to build a structured 40-page report. But you switch over to Claude to synthesize a dense 50-page legal contract because of its strict citation discipline. However, if you need up-to-the-minute market prices to make a trade and, actually want to keep your money, Gemini's native Google search integration is a massive structural advantage. When it comes to being an everyday companion, though, ChatGPT definitely takes the crown. Why? Mostly because of memory. ChatGPT actually remembers your specific preferences and context across completely different conversation sessions. Claude, on the other hand, pretty much defaults to a blank slate every time. Plus, ChatGPT just boasts the most versatile toolkit in the industry. DALL-E for your images, an incredible voice mode, and that massive GPT store loaded with customized tools. All right, part 3, ecosystems and multimodal features. Let's talk about where your team actually lives. If your workflow is entrenched in Google, Gemini is an absolute powerhouse. Because of its native workspace integration, you can instantly summarize massive email threads in Gmail, draft right there inside Google Docs, pull context seamlessly from your Drive files, and even automatically take notes in Meet. Combine that with its 2 million token window, and it essentially swallows your entire corporate drive whole. And this brings us to the multimodal divide. How these models handle stuff that isn't just text. For image generation or audio, ChatGPT is the definitive leader, with Dolly and voice mode. But pivot over to video, and Gemini takes the wheel entirely. Backed by Google's massive infrastructure and VO3 integration, it leads in both generating short videos from prompts and deeply analyzing really complex video files. Moving into part 4, the ultimate decision framework. Let's look at the pricing reality. The baseline is pretty standardized across the board. Claude Pro, ChatGPT Plus, and Google One AI Premium all start right around $20 a month. But your actual cost profile will change dramatically based on how you use them, especially for developers. When you start running token-heavy API tasks, Claude's costs can rise significantly because complex, reasoning-heavy tasks just consume way more tokens. Which leads us to part 5, the single model trap. You guys, this is a total workflow killer. The single model trap is this flawed ideology of either forcing one AI to do absolutely everything or constantly switching back and forth mid-task and completely losing your working context. We have to stop treating AI like a monogamous relationship. Forcing one single model to be your writer, your coder, your researcher, and your artist will inevitably lead to subpar results. Instead of constantly bouncing around, use this super simple, highly effective 3-step framework. Step 1, select one primary model that fits about 80% of your specific workflow. Step 2, pick a specialist model for the remaining 20% of tasks that your primary struggles with. Step 3, systematically build your daily habits around that exact combo. Here's what that looks like in the real world. Say you're a content creator heavily focused on writing. Make Claude your primary model to protect your authorial tone, but keep Gemini strictly as your specialist for pulling real-time research. Or if you're a developer, use Claude as your primary coding partner, but bounce over to ChatGPT when you need to generate interface images. Building a primary specialist system is just massively more efficient. Which brings us to our final thought. Ultimately, you shouldn't just pick an AI based on who is leading the scoreboard today or whose demo looked the flashiest. The real decision criteria comes down to asking yourself, what is the cost of your failure? Like, is your most expensive mistake hallucinating a critical clause in a legal contract? If so, you absolutely need Claude's citation discipline. Or is your most expensive mistake making a decision on outdated market data? Then you desperately need Gemini's live search. Choose the model that actively protects you from your own most expensive mistake. Thanks for hanging out with me on this explainer. I'll catch you in the next one.